You're at a dinner with 6 people, colleagues and friends. He says something. The air changes. The woman across from you flinches, just for a second, not enough that anyone else would notice. But you notice. You always notice. And before she's even put her glass down, you're already laughing, already explaining. He's just tired. He didn't mean it. You know how he gets when he's stressed. You've done this 1,000 times, maybe at a wedding, maybe in a hospital corridor, maybe in your kitchen with your own mother on the phone. Same reflex, faster than thought. You think you're protecting him? The covering was never loyalty. It wasn't fear. It wasn't even love. And once you see what it actually was, you cannot go back. Start where it actually started. Not the dinner. The dinner is the symptom. Go further back. To the first time. The first time he did something in front of someone else, and you watched their face start to change. And you stepped in. Not loudly. You didn't make a scene. You made a sentence. A small, easy sentence that put the weather back to normal. Oh, you know how he is. He's having one of those days. Sorry, he's running on no sleep. You don't remember that first time. Because by the time you noticed yourself doing it, you'd been doing it for months. That's how it starts. Not as a decision, as a smoothing. Both hands open over something cracked, holding it together while everyone else carries on eating. You learn to scan rooms. You learn to read the second a stranger's face shifted from polite to confused to, did he just say what I think he said? You learn to pivot mid-sentence. You learn to laugh at things that weren't funny, not because you found them funny, but because if you laughed first, other people might think they'd misread the room. You taught 1,000 people, one dinner at a time, that what they thought they'd seen wasn't what they'd seen. And every time you did it, something in you got a little better at it. You started anticipating. You started arriving early to events so you could pre-warn his mood. You started declining invitations on his behalf when you could feel the wind blowing the wrong way that day. You started managing his calendar around his rhythm, not because he asked you to, but because the cost of not doing it would land on you later. You started having a private second job nobody knew about. The job was him. The job was making sure other people never had to deal with him the way you did. None of that is what people mean by trauma response. A trauma response is something happening to you. This was something you were doing. Skilled, practiced, you got good at it, you also got tired. The tiredness has a specific quality. It's not the tiredness of working too hard at a job you can leave at 5 o'clock. It's the tiredness of running a one-woman press office for a man who keeps releasing statements you have to walk back. It's the tiredness of carrying the truth alone while everyone in your life carries the version you handed them. And here's the part that nobody talks about. You were proud of it. Not proud the way you're proud of an accomplishment. Proud the way someone is proud of a skill nobody else has. The skill of keeping a difficult man functional in public. You watched other women's husbands embarrass them at parties, and you thought I would never let that happen. You watched colleagues complain about their partners, and you thought at least mine doesn't. You held the standard. You held the line. The line was invisible to everyone except you, and you held it. That pride is one of the most honest things in this entire story. Sit with it. The pride is information. That's a lot to carry. You've been carrying it alone. Because what does the pride tell you? It tells you the covering wasn't reluctant. It tells you the covering was an identity. It tells you somewhere along the way, being the one who manages him became being the one who is good at managing him, became being the one who could manage him when nobody else could. And that woman, the one who could, is someone you became. Slowly. Over years, without noticing, she had a function, she had a value, she had a name in the system, the one who handles things, the patient one, the strong one, the one who's so good with him. And the worse he got, the more she was needed. Sit with that one too. Because here's a question you have probably never asked yourself in this exact wording. If he got better tomorrow, completely, fully, no longer needing managing, no longer needing covering for, no longer needing a press secretary, and worst of all, no longer needing you, what would you be? Who would the patient one be when there was nothing left to be patient about? Who would the strong one be when nothing required strength. You don't have to answer out loud. You felt the answer the second you read the question. That feeling is what this video's about. Now go back to the dinner. The woman across from you who flinched. You laughed before she put her glass down. You said he's just tired. And in the moment you said it, what did you stop? You stopped her from saying anything. You stopped the room from agreeing with what it had just seen. You stopped a chain reaction. Because if she'd put her glass down and said that was a horrible thing to say, quietly, the way one woman speaks to another at a dinner, then someone else might have nodded. And then someone else might have looked at him differently for the rest of the night. And then on the drive home, someone might have called someone and said, "I'm worried about her." And the next week, your sister might have called you. And the week after that, your mother. And then you'd have had to sit at a table with the people who love you and answer a question you have spent years making sure nobody had enough information to ask. That question is the question this video exists for. Not why did he do this to you? Other channels answer that one. They diagnose him, name the disorder, explain the cycle, and you watch them and feel a little better for an hour and then go back to your kitchen and laugh off the next thing he says at the next dinner, and nothing changes. The question is different. The question is the one you have spent years making sure nobody had enough information to ask. Why did you stay? Let that sit. It lands in a place that has nothing to do with him. And that question, why did you stay, is the question every act of covering has been, in some quiet way, protecting you from. Every smoothed-over scene, every laugh that got there first, every "he's just tired," every time you intercepted before the room could land on what it saw, you weren't protecting him from being seen. You were protecting yourself from a follow-up question. Why didn't you leave when you saw it? This is the thing. The covering wasn't a tax he made you pay. The covering was a wall you built. He wasn't the only person you were keeping on the other side of it. You were keeping your sister out, your closest friend, your mother, the woman you used to be, the woman who would have looked at you 10 years ago when this started and asked what is happening to you and why aren't you running. Every one of them, kept back by a single perfectly placed sentence at a dinner table. He's just tired. You were the wall. Now slow down, because what comes next matters. And it is an accusation. The wall got built for a reason. The reason is honest. The reason is human. The reason is this. At some point, earlier than you can name without sitting still for a long time, you noticed that the cost of letting other people see him was that you would then have to answer for being there. And the answer you would have to give was an answer you didn't have, or worse. The answer you had was one you couldn't say out loud yet, even to yourself. So you built the wall, and the wall let you stay, and staying let you not face the question. That isn't weakness, that's a survival architecture. The same intelligence that scanned 1,000 rooms and preempted 1,000 scenes. That intelligence was working overtime every day on your behalf, just not in the direction you thought. It wasn't keeping him hidden, it was keeping you hidden. From the people who would have asked, from the woman in the mirror who already knew. From the version of your life where you would have had to choose and chose anyway, and lived with what the choice cost. Hold that. Don't flinch from it. The voice sitting beside you isn't pointing at you. It's pointing at a mechanism inside you. The mechanism is not you. The mechanism is something you built and have the power to take apart. That's the line nobody draws cleanly enough in this entire conversation. You are not the cover. You are the woman who built the cover. Those are different. The cover was a structure. You are the person who can dismantle it. And here's the second thing nobody says, because it sounds harsh until you sit with it long enough to feel that it isn't. The cover is what kept you in. As long as nobody could see what you were living inside, you didn't have to look at it either. The wall worked in both directions. Outside, it kept the people who would have intervened on the other side. Inside, it kept the truth from arriving at the front of your mind. Which means, and read this slowly, the moment you stop covering for him is not the moment he gets exposed. It's the moment you do. That's the thing the script you keep telling yourself doesn't have a place for. The fear isn't really that he'll be seen. The fear is that you will be seen. Seen choosing. Seen staying. Seen knowing. Seen and having to answer to the people who love you and to yourself for the years. That is what the covering has been buying. Not his reputation, not his image, not even peace at dinner. Time. Time before the question lands. Time before you have to be the woman who answers it. And the bill on that time has been coming due for a while. You know this. The tiredness knows this. The flicker you feel when someone gets close to a question you can't deflect. That knows it. The way you've started avoiding the friends who were starting to ask, that knows it. You haven't been protecting the narcissist. You've been protecting the only version of the story where you don't have to explain why you stayed. Read that sentence again. Read it slowly. Sit inside it. It is not an accusation. It is the most accurate thing anyone has said to you about the last several years of your life. And the reason it lands the way it does is because some part of you has been waiting to hear it. The covering was never about him. It was about the story. The story in which you are the patient one, the strong one, the one who handles things. The story in which leaving would mean something happened to me, and staying means I am someone who can manage anything. The story you have been telling other people and yourself for so long that hearing the actual truth feels almost like betrayal. Of who, you cannot say. Of her, the one who held the line. And here's the strange part, the part nobody warns you about. The minute you see this clearly, the urgency to expose him drops. Because exposing him was never going to give you what you actually wanted. What you wanted was to be free of the role, not to win the argument, not to be vindicated, to stop being the one who holds. That is a different freedom, and it doesn't require him to change. It doesn't require him to be seen. It doesn't require a confrontation, a court case, a Facebook post, a confession from him at a dinner. It requires one thing only. It requires you to stop building the wall. That is the whole shift. The wall comes down, not by you announcing anything, not by you exposing him, not by you doing anything dramatic. The wall comes down by you simply not laughing. First, the next time he says something at a table, not stepping in, not explaining, not rescuing, letting the silence be the silence, letting the woman across from you put down her glass and say what she sees, if she sees it, letting your sister look at you and ask the question, letting the question land. And here is what happens when the question lands. You will discover that the people who love you have been waiting, not to judge you, to welcome you back. They are not going to ask, why didn't you leave? They are going to ask, how can I help? That is the difference between the conversation you have feared and the conversation that will actually happen. The one you feared was a court. The one that happens is a hand. You have been carrying this alone because you believe the carrying was the only thing keeping the building from falling. The building is going to be fine. You are the building. Last thing. And then I'll let you sit with the rest. There is a woman somewhere in your past, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20, maybe last spring, who watched you laugh off something at a dinner and went home and worried about you. She didn't say anything because you didn't give her enough to say anything with. The covering worked. She let it go. She is still there. She would still take your call. You don't have to explain why you stayed. You only have to stop staying inside the version of yourself who needs the story to hold. The covering was never loyalty. It was a door you kept locked from your side. The key is in your hand. It always was. If anything in this video found you, if any sentence stopped you, made you sit back, made you put your hand over your mouth, made you feel something you have been carrying for years finally have a name, tell me which one. Tell me in the comments. One line is enough. The sentence that landed, the moment something shifted, the thing you didn't know you needed to hear until you heard it. I read them. I read all of them. And the lines that land hardest for the most of you are the ones I build the next video around. So when you tell me what found you, you are not just leaving a comment. You are telling me where to go next. You are telling me which door to open. And if you have been sitting with this video, if it has done what I hoped it would do, if it has named something nobody else in your life has had the courage to name, then stay a while. Subscribe. Not because the algorithm needs it. Because if this video found you, the next one will too, and the one after that, and somewhere in the next few weeks or months, there will be another sentence waiting for you that you didn't know you needed. I would like to be there when it lands. The human spec is a small room, the people in it are honest, and the door is open. I'm glad you are here. I will see you in the next one.